Alright, welcome back, y'all. That's not what I meant to do. So, yesterday night I went out to a friend's house just to hang out, just to chill. I've been over before, but this time I noticed something. Since the handful of times that we've been over to his house, we've either been in his like kitchen area to eat or the basement. But this time we were in his living room. And I couldn't help but notice that in his living room, there are no lights. There's no lights at all. The ceiling has no lights installed whatsoever. The only thing lighting up the room, aside from the TV, is the lamp they have in the corner. If there's no lamp, then that room is pitch black. It's a living room. How can a living room not have lights? Do I even need to Dynamax? You know what? I'm not going to. You want to know what's so funny about his living room, aside from the fact that there's no lights? The light switch he has on the wall, if you switch it, it turns on the outlet. The outlet that the lamp is plugged into. It turns on the electrical outlet. The light switch on the wall turns on the electrical outlet. How does that make any sense? Felt like I was in the back rooms. Nothing made sense. So yesterday night, we went over. I actually bought food before I went over. I got dinner and I ate it over there. Two of my friends wanted me to get something for them as well. And I'm still waiting for them to pay me back because I'm not exactly liquid with cash right now. I'm not gonna lie, I've kind of gone on quite a spending spree lately. So, I'm not exactly flowing with cash right now. Which, can you believe, to the point that my Pokemon Home annual subscription ran out, and I'm not able to buy another subscription. At least not until Monday. Because, well, long story short, I deposited more money into my bank today, but because today's Saturday, it doesn't go in until Monday. You know what, just for fun, I'll do Electric Terrain. That way, if I max Lightning, it'll be even more boosted. And, you know, I've gone on and on about my feud with credit cards, but hey, you know, I use credit cards, and if I can help it, then I'd rather use credit card. But I won't make a big fuss about it if I can't. So anyways, yeah, yesterday I bought food before I went over to my friend's house. What's funny is, so, I got rice with chicken, and I ate about 3/4 of it. I was gonna save the rest. I was gonna bring it home, probably have it earlier today. I was just gonna eat the rest later on. But then, halfway through the night, I noticed, like, did anyone see my bag? You know, my plastic bag that had my food in it? Did anyone see where it went? And my friend, you know, the person whose house I went to yesterday, he was like, "Oh, I threw it away. I thought it was garbage. I thought you were done with it." It's funny. When I lifted up the bag, I thought it felt kind of heavy. It's like, oh, well, it's okay. Nothing to be done about it now. You know? Kind of sucks that this time I paid for it myself and had to go get it myself. And I didn't even get to finish it all. So, well, that sucks. Anyway, so we went over last night. I brought my Switch and my Switch dock. Because my friend, he said he gave his Switch away. Because he doesn't really use it. He gave it to, like, his cousin or whatever. God damn it. What the hell was that rock in the way? So yeah, he doesn't have a Switch anymore, so I brought my Switch and my dock over, and we played some Smash Ultimate. What's funny is, though, because I only have one pair of Joy-Cons right now, because I played all the others to destruction. I used them to the point they all broke. I only have one pair. My other friend, who also has a Switch, he has the Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch. But he doesn't really play like I do. He said he hasn't charged his Joy-Cons in like 4 years. So he attached his Joy-Cons to my Switch and let it charge for a bit. And while we were waiting for it to charge, well, my Switch was already hooked up to the TV, the HDMI, so what I did was I just went back into Fire Red and continued shiny hunting for Charmander, resetting for a shiny starter. And I kid you not, the entire night, I did that. When we weren't playing Smash, I did that. Just shiny hunting on the TV. It was just background, it was just second thought. All my friends were like, wow, you actually are shiny hunting in the background this whole time. I'm like, yeah! What's funny is, though, while I was shiny hunting, one of my friends said, God forbid you get a female. I chimed in, like, actually, that would be even more rare. My other friend, who had the other Joy-Cons, he's like, yeah, I believe it's like a 12.5% chance of it being female, so it would be more rare. And then that first friend said, no, I meant in real life. If this is what you do. I wasn't talking about getting a female shiny. So anyways, before we talk about the shows, it's come to my attention that there has been some Hollywood updates that I have not gone over yet. So first of all, supposedly Tom Holland and Zendaya are married now. They had a private wedding. I mean, good for them. It's not the first time we've heard of private weddings happening. I almost said private weapons. Private weddings happening. No one knew Markiplier got married. That was a private wedding. So if they are really married now, hey, good for them. And I did not go over the Mario Galaxy movie direct we had. So, hold on, let me see. Anyway, so the Mario Galaxy Direct we had 4 days ago announced a couple new cast members. So playing Wart is Luis Guzman. I swear, where have I seen him? I've seen something that he was in. What have I seen him in? Well, I see on Google he was in Beverly Hills, Chihuahua. Do I remember him in that? I think I do. I don't know. I know him, but I haven't really seen many things he was in. And then playing the Queen Bee, Issa Rae. I think the only thing I've seen Issa Rae in was the Spider-Verse film, where she played Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew. I'm pretty sure that was her playing the character, right? And here's a big one. This one made me laugh harder than Chris Pratt as Mario. Playing Yoshi is Donald Glover, of all people. Oh, and you thought Chris Pratt as Mario was a hilarious casting. Yo, Donald Glover as Yoshi? That's wild. Now, I don't know if Donald Glover is doing like a high-pitched voice himself, going like, Yoshi! Like voicing Yoshi, or if he's just speaking in his normal voice and then they just edit it more high-pitched in post. Kind of like with Vin Diesel as Baby Groot. If he is doing the higher pitch voice himself, then fine. But if it's the other option, if he's just saying things in his normal voice and then they just make it higher pitch in editing, if that's the case, then I really question why. Why not cast someone who actually has a higher pitched voice? Like Vin Diesel voicing Baby Groot. I know Vin Diesel voices the adult Groot, but like, did you really need to keep him to voice the Baby Groot? You know? You just had him voice Baby Groot. It was Vin Diesel's regular voice. Y'all just made it higher pitch. It's like, was that really necessary? Couldn't you have just hired someone else? I don't know. That always seemed a little weird to me. So let's see, today was Score Bunny Community Day, and I got this many. I got 15 shiny Score Bunnies today. But honestly, who cares? Because this is the bigger news. I got this! I got a Zero IV Costume Ditto today. Unfortunately, I got this on my sister's phone, so this isn't on my game. Zero IV is rarer than 100 IV, and to get it as a costume Ditto, I'm not too sure how many of those are out there in the world. My options aren't great in this path. Unless I'm mistaken, Pokemon like Ditto and Zorua in Pokemon Go that disguise as something else, the IVs are random. Like, even if the case was, I caught it on my sister's phone, I could catch it on my phone, it would still be randomized. It's not like literally every other spawn in the game. No, even if that was the case, that wouldn't have... Well, that wasn't the case, because it was, would you believe it? The daily spawn on my sister's phone. So, yeah. Kinda crazy. You know, yesterday my friends were asking, like, any updates on that girl you're trying to, quote-unquote, pursue, and I'm just like, no updates whatsoever. I saw her one time months ago. It's like, what update do you want from me? And then they were saying, well, what do you know about her? Damn near nothing. All I really know is her name, and that's it. I don't know her last name, I don't know what she studies, I don't know where she studies, I know nothing about her. It's like, what can I tell you guys? There is nothing to say. They're just, they were like, do you know what she looks like? Do you have a picture? It's like, no, why would I have a picture? Alright, do you know her Instagram? No, I don't even know her last name. They were saying like, well, do you know her dad's last name? It's like, if I knew her dad's last name, then obviously I would know her last name. But no, I don't know her dad's last name. Her dad being one of my dad's friends. So, one of my friends was like, alright, then what do you call him? Because I think he said in like Mando, you say, in like old-fashioned Mando, you refer to like a buddy of yours as like last name and then something else. And I'm just like, I don't refer to him like that. I call him Uncle, if even. I just say hi to him whenever I see him, and that's it. I don't address him by a name or a title. And doesn't that sound weird? You know, old school Chinese folks, they refer to their own friends with their last name? I don't know. And then, you know, they were trying to find her based on just her first name. If not on Instagram, then LinkedIn. Because, I don't know, LinkedIn. And then they threw out last names that they were finding profiles of. So I just replied, you act like I'm going to know the moment you say it. Despite the fact I just don't know, period. Just for fun, I'll sword stance. It's like, you guys have to understand, I saw her one time several months ago, and it wasn't until several months after that first encounter of her, that first meeting of her, that I learned, just casually thrown out a conversation, oh, she's single, she's in school, she's 2 years younger. It's like, oh. They were asking, what, did you talk to her the first time you met her? I wouldn't really say talked. I think the most I said was hi. I've said this before. In my experience, all the good-looking people are taken anyway, so at this point I don't even bother. That's why I just said hi. It wasn't until months afterwards I found out, oh, she is single. Oh. Because imagine the alternative. I try to make a move on her during dinner with both our families together. Oh, you're taken? Oh, well, now this is awkward. Would you have preferred that? How do we even get to this topic? So, how's everybody doing? Y'all doing good? Let's see. Oh, come on! Man, this path sucks. That's already 2 down. So we have our usual 3 shows to go over. We have a new episode of Oshinoko Season 3, we have the next episode of Monarch, and we have another episode of Ted. I don't think next time I play there will be a new episode of Oshinoko just yet. In fact, next time I play, you know, if the schedule goes accordingly, the next time I do the Shiny Hunt, Invincible Season 4 won't even be out yet. So it will have to be the one after, before I start talking about Invincible. You're welcome. What can I say besides you're welcome? I think we might be screwed because we have Flareon up on our side. So anyways, before we start talking about the shows, you want to know what I was thinking about today? Children. I was thinking about how would a couple raise a kid in this day without a babysitter? Like, the thought just ran across my mind. think. A couple, they have a kid, one parent, maybe both, take off time from work to start raising their newborn, but eventually the parents gotta go back to work. So if one of the parents don't go back to work, then that parent can watch the kid at home. But in this economy, that ain't happening. You can't afford rent and pay for a whole family with just one income, unless you're like a doctor, which even that's questionable these days. But like, yeah, not today, not these days. You can't have both parents not working. Alright, so both parents got to work to actually earn that bread, and let's say there's no babysitter. What's gonna happen to the kid? You know? Babysitters cost money, daycare costs money. You can't exactly take the kid to work unless it's your own business, you know? You ever notice those Asian businesses that always has a kid sitting in the corner? Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I was that kid. Anyways. So like, how exactly would a couple raise a kid now if both parents have to work and no babysitter, no daycare because money? You could say like, oh, just drop off the kid to the grandparents, but that's not going to be the case for everyone. Like, not everyone always has someone to drop the kid off to. Like, you can't bring the kid to work. You can't just leave the kid alone at home. Both parents have to work. So unless you have a babysitter or you pay for daycare, you're kind of screwed. You're especially screwed if you don't have relatives to watch the kid. And, you know, it's like, don't you... Maybe you have relatives, you know? Maybe you can leave the kid off to the kid's aunt or uncle. But, like, they don't got lives themselves? Or, like, you can ask a friend to watch. I doubt a friend's gonna watch that kid for free. You know? One time, sure, but, like, every single day, it's like, nah, he about to start charging you. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, how exactly is parents supposed to raise a kid nowadays without a babysitter, without daycare? Wow, we actually got pretty lucky with that RNG just now. Okay, so let's get started talking about these shows. What freaking episode was this? Was this 9? Was this the 9th episode of this season already? Let me see, what episode are we on? Nope, yeah, this is episode 9. Why was it so hard to find a list of episodes online? Alright, so episode 9, we actually begin with Gotunda and the other guy, the producer guy, doing, you know, the first steps of getting a movie off its feet. You know, meet with investors, pitch the idea, casting. A lot of work goes behind filmmaking that we don't see. Especially the early days for filmmaking, getting actually greenlit for the film. You know, you have to pitch, you have to get investors. But this film in particular is kind of hard to pitch because, you know, investors, they're investing their money. They want their money back. And with a questionable project like this that hits so hard on sensitive subjects, you know, investors may not want to take that risk. Well, they're also wondering, like, who should we cast to play I? Because the person we had in mind, you know, the girl that died in the last episode, yeah, I hear she's gone MIA. Anyways, let's look to casting someone else. So they actually have a first choice in mind, Frill Shiranui, which is the name of the Snake Eyes girl I completely forgot the name of. These side characters, yeah, they don't show up very often. So it's like, who are these characters? Oh, that's their name. We see Aqua and Kana actually hanging out in public. And haven't I heard this question before somewhere? Kana asks Aqua, out of these 3 options, how would you like to die? Only based on these 3 options. Would you rather A, fall into a pit of tarantulas, B, shit, I don't remember what B was, and then C, be struck by a meteor? And he's just like, obviously, I'll pick C, because if I'm struck by a meteor, I'll die before I feel any pain. She just goes, wrong! The correct answer should have been A, because tarantulas are not poisonous. They won't kill you. Sure, they'll hurt, but you'll survive. So Kana calls him by name out in public, so they get recognized, because Aqua's kind of a big star right now. He's kind of a hot topic. So they bolt, they run for it. They go back to Strawberry Productions, where Kana contemplates, I can't call you by your name anymore in public. Otherwise, we'll draw too much attention, so what should I call you? Ah, I know. Instead of Aqua-kun, I'll call you Ah-kun. Alright then. And then she just has to run her big mouth, because she's just like, I wouldn't want anyone to think that you and I are dating while we're out in public. After all, I don't think of you romantically in that way. I only see you as a very special friend. No more, no less. Since you're dating Akane and all. And that's when Aqua drops a bombshell. Oh, me and Akane broke up. Kana immediately goes, huh? Oh. You and Kana broke up, huh? Oh. Just internal monologue. What have you done? You just ruined your chances of becoming his girlfriend. Me and my big mouth. I'm not gonna lie. I can't exactly say I've been in the same position, but yeah, I've pretty much said the same thing Hana has. You know, I've pretty much said to girls I was interested in, like, oh, I would never date you. I don't see you that way. You're just a very good friend to me. Hiding the fact that I was into them because, you know, I was a scared, embarrassed young boy who had feelings for a girl. Anyway, so we can see that Kana's attitude has completely gone 180, where she was so dark and depressed for the past season, pretty much. She's now beaming with light. Memchill picks up on this, and she even teases Aqua like, I wonder what's gotten her spirits up. Oh, I wonder. Oh, what a mystery. Who knows what could be making Kana so happy? Anyway, so Ruby and Aqua, they're still not on speaking terms. I mean, I can't imagine too much time has passed since the last episode. Sure, they live together since they're siblings, but when they cross paths in the hallway, they don't even lock eyes. They don't speak. They just walk past. Well, Ruby just playing with one of the street cats. Gotanda shows up and speaks to her. So Gotanda pretty much picks up immediately that Ruby is still pretty mad at Aqua. But he tries to defend him, being like, you know, your brother has his own reasons for why he did it. But Ruby, she doesn't care. This act from Aqua has only done worse in Ruby's eyes. Ruby now has learned from this that she can't trust anyone. Not even her brother, not even her family. She can't trust anyone. Because everyone's a liar, and we don't like liars. Gotanda also thinks to himself, damn, what a curse this is. Talk about good genetics. Because Ruby, she's grown up to look just as beautiful as her mother. And then he realizes, wait a second. She looks damn near exactly like her mother. Eureka! I've been saying this since, I don't want to say the start, since it only happened like last episode, but like, isn't it kind of a no-brainer to cast Ruby to play Ai? Literally the actual daughter of the story who's focusing on? You know, the person who has this, who is basically the spitting image of her. But I didn't even consider that there's one glaring problem with that, which is what we see in the next scene, because we see Gotanda and the other guy arguing. The other guy is more of a businessman. You know, he doesn't care about movie being art. You know, what's best for the project is what we should go for. Because the other guy is just like, money, 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 money. Money talks. We have to do what's best for the investors. So they asked Ruby to come in for a quick audition, and she's just like, oh, I've never acted before. I did take a couple of lessons, but yeah, I've never properly acted before, and I'm just like, oh, right. That's right, she's not an actress, she's an idol. Right. Yeah, I didn't even consider that. So they're arguing back and forth on who they should cast. And then somehow Frill hears about the fact that she is one of the runner-ups for the main role in this Gotanda film, as well as Ruby and one other person. So there's 3 people who are the top choices for the lead, obviously playing Ai, but they don't know that yet. All they know is they're being eyed for the lead role in some film that director Gotanda is making. They don't know what the project is just yet. So Frill, she takes it upon herself. She has an idea. She asks Ruby, hey, do you want to grab crepes on the way home after class? And that's, you know, just her way to get the two of them alone to talk. So that's where Frill pitches the idea. Let's have a private audition between the two of us. You know, whoever wins the little private audition between us gets the role by default. Whoever doesn't, well, too bad. They don't get the role. So they rent out a little studio, which I guess is super cheap. Because I think Frill said it was like 200 yen for 2 hours? I don't know what that is, like 20 bucks? I don't know how much that is, but supposedly it's very cheap. So Frill and Ruby, they're thinking, hey, if the two of us are auditioning, you know, privately between us, then who's gonna judge? In comes the third person, the third runner-up for the lead role. It's Akane. And, well, Ruby sees this as super awkward, because despite them being the same age, Ruby once called her older sister, you know, big sister, because her brother was dating her. You know, that is kind of awkward, you know, your sibling's ex. Anyways, but, you know, they go back to it. But because, well, Frill has a copy of a portion of the script, or a pitch at least. But because these two don't know what the project is, she's not allowed to share it with them. Makes sense, makes sense. So instead, Frill proposes a topic for them to act off of. Looks at the cover of the script saying the 15-year lie, and she just goes, ooh, how about the topic be liar? Oh, she just screwed up there. We know Ruby don't like liars, so she doesn't even need to act for this one. She can just be herself. Anyway, so Frill, she acts. She pretty much does the boy who cries wolf. While Ruby and Akane sits and watches, you know, judging her acting skills. But we only see Frill in this episode do her thing. We don't see Ruby or Akane just yet. I don't know. In my perspective, maybe it's just because I've only seen the one. I've only seen Frill's small snippet of acting at this moment. Hey, she can cry on command, which is a very good skill to have as an actor. So, you know, let's see what Ruby has, let's see what Akane has. Oh, you know what's one thing I forgot to mention? When Gotanda visited Ruby, he pretty much understands, like, geez, how much is Aqua shouldering himself, to the point he didn't even tell... I am not going for that bug type. To the point he won't even tell Ruby anything. Like, Ruby doesn't even know about the DVDs. It's like, what DVDs? Oh, he didn't tell you? Never mind. And that's a good question. What DVDs? Well, it turns out, in a flashback, I gave Gotanda 2 DVDs to give to her kids when they reach the age of 15. Why didn't I do it herself? Aside from the fact that she's dead, but she didn't know she was gonna die. So why didn't I do it herself? Well, she claims, well, you know me, I'll probably forget. And Gotanda's like, yeah, you probably would. Does Bronze Song have Levitate? I don't remember. Well, I'll do coaching just in case. But Gotunda also begins to wonder, why did I give me those DVDs to give to her kids? And why did she coincidentally give it to me just before she died? Also, finally, not really finally, but finally, a particular character returns in this episode. We do see one small, very, very small scene of Aqua visiting his mother's grave, and standing behind him is the gray-haired little girl. The same girl who visited Ruby at the end of Season 2, which at this point in the story was like a year ago. But we don't see any interaction between them. She says hi, and then the camera just cuts away. It's like, what the hell, man? You've been teasing this character the entirety of Season 2 to the point she shows up for like 30 seconds at the end of Season 2. And now, nearing the end of Season 3, she shows up for like another 5 seconds. The hell is this character's deal? And like I said, around Season 2, she was acting like she knows the identity of both Ruby and Aqua. We'll see, we'll see. Anyways, that was a mess of a description, but there you go. I don't think I'm forgetting anything significant in this episode, because that's pretty much all that happened. But like, damn, this project has a lot of hurdles it needs to get past, aside from the initial lead being killed and gone missing. Aside from the investors not really wanting to take up a project like this. Well, once they get past all that, once they get into the actual filming phase, there's still the issue of the chemistry on screen. Because you've got to keep in mind, Aqua has pretty much burned every bridge he's ever made. He and Ruby aren't on speaking terms. He just backstabbed Akane and broke up with her. Well, he and Kana's relationship are much better now. I doubt he spoke to Himekawa since the whole parent shared blood thing. So like, yikes, the cast has some work to do. Because they have some bad blood between them. And you know, I'm thinking, if Ruby really does get cast to play Ai, wouldn't it kind of make sense for Aqua to be cast as, you know, Kamiki Hikaru, his father? I mean, according to Akane, they look alike. They look very much alike. How bizarre is that? You know? If you really plan to expose your father in this film, so you play your father who murdered your mother being played by your sister. What a show. What a concept. Okay, and then I'm thinking, who would the other characters play? I suppose characters like Akane, Kana, Memcho, they would play the other members of B Kamachi at the time? I mean, I feel like that would make sense. We don't know of any other characters from the past who fit that kind of, you know, kind of characters. Who the hell would Himekawa play? I don't know. Maybe he would play Ichigo in that position? I don't know. You know, as of this moment, there's only 3 episodes of Monarch Season 2 out. So at some point, we're gonna run out of episodes to talk about. And then we're gonna have to wait for more episodes to come out. That's fine, because we have other shows to hold us over in the time being. Like Invincible. And Daredevil Born Again Season 2 is starting, little over a week and a half from now. By the way, did you see in the trailer that potentially Wesley is returning? Well, he's dead. He died in Season 1 of the Netflix show, so I doubt he's gonna be resurrected. I don't know, that'd be pretty cool if that was the case. So anyways, let's get talking about Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 Episode 2. Alright, so let's see, this episode we actually start off with pretty much Kong's perspective of trying to chase down Titan X and then losing it in the water. Turning around, roaring at the helicopter. But they did rescue Lee, so mission accomplished there. But, you know, in doing so, they unleashed another Titan upon the world. So they're taking Lee and everyone back to Monarch Outpost 18, which is just a surveillance ship on the water. Well, on board, a couple of crew members are wondering, what do we do now? Sir, Tim. Because now that Verdugo is dead, Tim is second in command. He's the next person to be in charge, and I'm thinking, how? We'll get back to that in a moment. But yeah, even Tim himself doesn't feel like he is leadership worthy. Like, he doesn't fit the role of leadership. So he's just like, no, we cannot, like, I'm not in control here. We need to wait for Washington to give us directives to follow. Lee comes in pretty much roasting Tim, the fact that he's now in charge, you know, this guy. But then Tim claps back because he's pretty pissed at Lee. You gotta keep in mind, this stuff happened like 2 years ago to them. The fact that Lee, he took over a Monarch outpost by force and then nearly put the entire world at danger. But Lee, he was only doing what he thought was best, because unlike Monarch, he actually had a plan. Keiko seems a little disgusted to hear this, like, this is the Lee Shaw that I knew. You know, he's different now. Since when did Lee Shaw take over an outpost full of workers by force? We might lose this run, actually. So Lee, he borderline takes control, at least for now. Since he's saying, alright, we can detect that thing, right? It is swimming away. We can follow it with the ship. We can keep track of it with our sensors. So, we gotta follow it. We gotta catch it. Well, not catch it, but we just gotta follow it. So, Tim agrees. Alright. Keep behind them. Keep behind that Titan, but don't get close enough to the point where it's dangerous and it alerts it. Also, while they were on their helicopter flight back onto the ship, somehow a scarab hitchhikes onto the helicopter and gets off on the ship. I'm jumping a little ahead here. Well, not really ahead in the story, but, you know. The show hasn't given these things a name yet, but I saw the behind the scenes, they call these things scarabs. So yeah, one of the scarabs makes it onto the ship. So as this thing is sneaking on board, I kind of find it hard to believe not a single person saw this thing. Like, really? Really? An entire ship with a whole crew. Not a single person saw this thing slithering around. Not one person. Like, no one heard this thing? So throughout the episode, we see Kate is feeling immense guilt for pretty much unleashing this thing on the world. Ah, shit. Had this thing not flinched me twice with Ironhead, we maybe could have won this. So yeah, Kate is feeling immense guilt. What the hell happened to the screen just now? Wait, did that come across? Yeah, it did! Did you guys see what happened with the screen just now? So we see briefly Kentaro arguing with his father Hiroshi about how they shouldn't have saved Lee, because in doing so, they unleashed Titan X upon the world. But Kate overhears, and she, you know, she's hurt by this, because she feels like she's to blame. She pushed the button to get Lee back. And in doing so, Titan X escaped. Yeah, crazy camera, huh? But Hiroshi tries to comfort his daughter by saying, like, if you want someone to blame, you blamed me for keeping all of this a secret, for betraying your mother, for pretty much dragging you into this life. Blame me. You know, good father. Taking the blame to shoulder the burden for your children. And I guess Kate just wanders off for a bit. There was actually very little Kate in this episode. Alright, so we flash back to more 1957 in Santa Soledad. Oh, come on, you just had the one-shot Butterfree? Where, upon more investigation of the cave and the markings there, Billy, he actually finds a map. He finds a map that is a migration map. A migration pattern to try to discover where this thing is headed. Lee and Keiko, you know, Keiko is taking samples of the water. She notices that the water is really rich. Something is giving the water a lot of nutrients, so she wants to stay and figure that out. But Bill, he shows up and he wants to leave because of the map he found. Like, the reason this Titan X isn't here anymore is because it's already gone. The migration patterns. So they need to head back to somewhere else. I forget where he said. They need to cross-reference the things that they found there, and maybe they can get ahead of the sea monster. But Keiko doesn't want to do that. Because according to her, they've been traveling all around the world following every last monster story that Bill heard of. And Keiko, well, she knows that this little village is hiding something. She wants to stay and find out what it is. But Bill, he wants to leave. Lee has been wanting to leave since the beginning, since, you know, you don't need to be the brightest person to notice that these guys, they don't want them here. They want them to leave under any circumstance. Like, please get the hell out of our village or we will hurt you kind of vibes. But Bill, he has a plan. He has a compromise. Alright, Keiko, you stay. You and Lee stay. I will go and investigate. It's better if we divide and conquer, right? No, not right. Lee says it best, that you really should stick together. But Bill, being stubborn as he is, well, he actually goes through with the plan. So Bill leaves. He leaves Lee and Keiko alone on this little island with this little village who really don't like them. Yeah, smart going there, Bill. Yep, good job. So let's see. In present day, first of all, after Kate was hurt by what her father had said, as she's walking down the corridors of the ship, looking like Monstrum, not gonna lie, she bumps into this guy. Okay, that was random. But then you realize this guy, this poor worker on the ship, just trying to do his job. He goes to what looks like the medical area of the ship, because it kind of looks like a hospital receptionist area, like one-to-one. I swear, did they film this inside a hospital and just paste it into the episode, dubbing it inside the ship? Because it looks damn near identical to like the set pieces of hospitals I've seen in other shows and movies. Anyways, ooh, of course it's dark. Of course he's alone, and he starts hearing noises. He looks around, he sees in the corner, the top ceiling corner, you know, this creature that just lunges onto him. And, well, the camera cuts, but obviously we know that this guy's dead. It's like, honestly, not a single person on this entire ship saw this thing crawling around. Not one person. Anyways. So they're chasing down Titan X. Lee and Keiko, they're on, what's the part of the ship? What's that part of the ship called? Where you can actually oversee what's ahead of you, and you can, like the control room, basically. Where, you know, Titan X, it's moving faster. So Lee questions, can we go faster? But the dude, the no-name worker, he's just like, well, our propellers are already at 110%. We'll make it 120. Come on, let's go. We can't lose sight of this thing. Damn, maybe I shouldn't have gone for Marowak. Oh wait, hold on. There was a scene that happened before this. Tim and Lee meet up because Tim, he got orders from Washington, and the orders are pretty much the same thing as Lee said. Follow that thing at all cost. And also, so Tim, he was thinking, even to Lee, he was saying out loud, like, I'm no leader. Before all of this, I was just some troll in Monarch's basement doing the paperwork. I'm no leader. I can't lead this operation. And, you know, I was thinking that too. In my mind, I'm thinking, how is he second in command? He wasn't even working in the main control room before all of this. He was, as he put it, a troll in the basement going through all the paperwork. Like, no one even knew he worked there, pretty much. How is he second in command now? What? Whatever. Anyway, so there was another order given to Tim by Washington officials. Leland Shaw is to be brought in, to be detained and questioned immediately. So Lee is actually willing to submit. He puts his hands up to be handcuffed, but Tim is just like, you know what? I think that second command came in, you know, messed up. I didn't receive no order saying that. Crumples the paper and just goes about their day. I do want to point out that, you know, the possibility of unleashing Titan X means that they could have another G-Day on their hands. And it's kind of funny that Keiko questions, what's G-Day? Yeah, she did kind of miss that. She doesn't know what G-Day is. And what's funny is, we know that, well, multiple G-Days are coming up. The fight against Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, Scar King. Yeah, multiple G-Days are coming up. So anyways, they increase the speed of the boat to try to catch up to Titan X. Because they also realize there is a whole freighter of ships ahead. There are like a dozen ships ahead. You know, they're kind of like, I don't know, border control to ensure no ships go past them, kinda. They weren't exactly the Coast Guard. It looked more like they were shipping containers. But if Titan X reaches them, those are hundreds of innocent civilian workers on those ships that are about to have a very bad day. So we need to try our best to intercept Titan X before it reaches those ships. Lee points out, hey, don't you guys have a drone on this ship? Yeah, but it's not armed. It's armed with the camera. Keiko's like, wow, you guys have drones now? They realize that they are able to use sonar waves against Titan X. Because in a flashback, while they're in that cave, first of all, in that cave, Keiko talks about her husband, you know, Hiroshi's father, how it was actually their parents who arranged the marriage. I mean, Keiko's first husband was a good man, according to her. He was a doctor, you know, before, or was it during? During and after the war. I don't know what war she was talking about, actually. Some sort of Japan war, I think. I don't think it was World War II. Because the timing just doesn't match up if that's the case. So I actually don't know what war Keiko was talking about. Please let me know if you guys do. Well, she pretty much explained how her first husband died not long after Hiroshi was born. He died from cancer. So, damn. But after this story, she feels some sort of vibration coming off of the ground. But only Keiko can feel it. Lee doesn't feel it. So that tells us how in present day they know that Titan X, which they claim they've seen before, they know to be able to use sonar frequencies against it. And Hiroshi volunteers because he's able to actually, you know, hotwire, or he's able to adjust how the sonar frequency being emitted off of the drone is. And Keiko's so proud of her boy that he's so smart and capable. Again, it's kind of weird. You know, her son is like 30 years older than she is now. Let's see, so, I don't know, this was kind of nice. Seeing Keiko and Hiroshi together working on the sonar frequency for the drone. Hiroshi does this thing where, you know, he bites his fingernails, but then Keiko, just as motherly instincts, tries to stop him. As if he was a little kid, she's trying to stop him from having these bad habits. And, well, she mentions to her son that her father would have been right at home doing this, you know. Bill Randa, he would have been right at home doing this. Anyways, in the flashback scenes, we see the girl from the previous episode, her name is Lucia. And then this other dude, we actually don't know his name. The other Spanish-speaking dude, who very much doesn't like these guys over. They talk for a bit, they say some sort of ominous plan. And they actually visit Keiko and Lee in the cave. And this dude could not be more suspicious. You know, he comes in like, ah, found what you were looking for? In a threatening tone. But then, he invites him like, you couldn't have picked a more excellent time to show up on our island. Tonight is our festival. Please join us. Keiko accepts while Lee is just like, sadly we have to decline. Okay, guess we're joining. It's like, yo, this dude could not be more suspicious. Like, honestly, the fact that these guys trusted him whatsoever is beyond me. So they're trying to fly the drone towards Titan X close enough so that the frequency can be heard by Titan X. However, you know, it's not close enough. The dude is saying we can't fly the drone any lower, otherwise something might go bad. We might lose the drone. But Lee is just like, ah, screw this. He takes the control for himself and lowers it right next to where Titan X is. And I guess it was close enough, because maybe Titan X actually heard it. And then one of Titan X's tentacles just thwacks the drone out of the air. Well, now they lost their chance. So, what can they do? Titan X is about to vaporize like a dozen ships carrying hundreds of you know, sailors on them. Well, I don't want to say lucky for them, because, you know, Kate, she's been wandering around the ship for a while. Sure, she had a small conversation with May that isn't really that important. But, like, so she opens the room to her door, she walks in, and my god, lucky for her, because the Scarab just crawls across, doesn't go into the room to attack Kate when she's vulnerable. Nah, lucky her. She just hears the thing crawling across the hallway, and she goes out to investigate. She notices that it's leaving a blood trail, so rest in peace to that poor guy that the Scarab probably tore apart. Oh, but because this is a PG-13 show, at least I think so, so they can't show that kind of gore. So Kate wanders, she notices the Scarab just kinda not attacking at the moment. So she kinda panics and she's all alone. She tries to call for help, but wow, of course it doesn't connect. So then, I don't know what Kate exactly was thinking here. Instead of going on the offense, instead of going on the defense, she goes on the offense. She grabs a fire extinguisher and just aims it at that thing. I don't think CO2 or whatever fire extinguishers spray out, I don't think that's necessarily going to stop that thing from lunging at you. But, oh no, Kate forgot to pull the pin. So she's struggling to pull the pin so that she can actually launch this thing away with mist. But lucky for her, Kentaro shows up with May and shoots this thing with a flare gun. You know, like 2 shots from a flare gun, and then May trying to bash it in with the fire extinguisher. Well, this thing, the Scarab, lets off like a sonic blast. So powerful that it not only reaches beyond the ship, but goes all the way to Titan X. And just in time too, because Titan X turns around, turns a 180, stops just in time before hitting all of those ships, and that makes a 180 for our characters. Right, there was also this one scene where Keiko was questioning, is it true that Lee forcefully took over an outpost with workers in it? That doesn't sound like the Lee Shaw I know. You know, Keiko actually questions Monarch. She's just like, excuse me, I have been gone for a while, but what exactly is Monarch's mission? And I like this subtle detail, which we haven't heard yet, but I'm sure we will later on. Tim pretty much says Monarch's motto: discovery and defense in a time of monsters. That's what Tim said, and Keiko picks up, that's what Billy said. Those are Billy's words. So realizing Monarch, you know, is different from the time that she comes from, she manages to convince Monarch to do the right thing, and that is, you know, trying to stop Titan X before it obliterates entire cities, potentially. So anyways, they realize, Kentaro calls in, hey, there's some creature here. It's one of those giant bug things that came out of the breach when that unknown Titan showed up too. So Lee realizes that thing isn't coming for us, it's coming for that little guy right there. So they hatch a plan, and not gonna lie, this plan was borderline suicide on Lee's end. So he takes another one of the lifeboats, tosses the scarab into it, wrapped up in a towel, and Lee sails off, pretty much leading Titan X away from the ship. I mean, it was a good plan in the moment, but not gonna lie, the chances of Lee surviving this were extremely low. And while Lee sails off, Kate feels some sort of vibration in the water that no one else is able to feel. We know in the flashbacks that Keiko was able to feel those same vibrations, but Lee wasn't able to. Maybe something special about this family's bloodline? Keiko was able to feel it, now Kate is able to feel it. Anyways, not gonna lie, the CGI was spectacular. Since Lee is just sailing out in the middle of the ocean and he just has this ginormous creature chasing behind him. Everyone gets out to watch to see if Lee survives. And once Lee gets far enough from the ship, he tosses the scarab off the water. So Titan X goes for the scarab, but in doing so kind of creates a pretty big tidal wave. A pretty big wave that looks like it engulfed Lee and the lifeboat he was controlling. Our characters actually think he's a goner, but miraculously he makes it out of the wave. Somehow, it looks very much like he was engulfed by the wave, but somehow he made it not even looking like his hair got wet. Oh my god, it took out all four of us at the same time. And then we see Titan X pick back up its scarab, but uh-oh, we see attached onto Titan X's body hundreds of scarabs. This thing has a whole legion of scarabs to control, which is exactly what we see in the flashback story as well. So anyways, present day, all is good and dandy, at least for now. In the flashbacks, however, so they get invited to this festival, so they attend the festival. Everyone's dressed up in this kind of like almost Native American looking getup, because they're about to do some sort of ritual. And then that, you know, sketchy Spanish dude comes out, offers them a drink. He's like, what is this? It's wine. Drink. Drink. And then he stares at them as they're drinking. It's like, you idiots. Why would you drink that? Obviously it's laced with something. Morons. So yeah, all looks fine for now. The people of this village are dancing, celebrating. But Keiko starts feeling a bit off. She feels starts feeling a bit woozy. She gets up and then joins the dance. Not necessarily joins the dance, like people just pull her in and then she just starts to join. You know, Lee notices something's a little off with Keiko, so he follows. And then he starts feeling off too, and he also gets pulled in to join the dance. And then, well, party time's over, the dance is over. There was a small moment where it seems like Lee and Keiko got close. You know, flashing back to their kiss. But we know Keiko has already been married to Bill. So, the dancing part is over, the fun time is over, it's ritual time. So, these guys, first of all, they take out their dead scarab as if it's like, I don't know, a deity they hold up on their shoulders. And then a different group of people, they take out this shark that they caught on a rope. So, their ritual, I guess, is like, they take a pretty big machete, they gut the shark to bleed, and then the dude takes the shark blood and does some sort of design, some sort of symbol on Lucia's forehead. And, well, all the people of the village start taking shelter inside of their little wooden houses. Lee and Keiko have no idea what's going on, what they're doing, so they ask Lucia what's going on now. Lucia pretty much says, well, I tried to get you guys to leave, but you refused. So now, the secret this village keeps will remain a secret. And then she flees inside too. So Lee and Keiko, they do notice that the moon is kind of blood red. There's kind of a blood moon going on. Keiko starts feeling the vibrations again, but Lee swears he can't feel them. Not until until the ground really starts trembling like an earthquake, to where Lee is like, yeah, now I can definitely feel it. So the cave they were in kind of breaks apart. Hundreds of thousands of scarabs start crawling out, flooding out. Lee and Keiko see in the distance a tidal wave of these ginormous bug creatures approaching the village, so, you know, they run for their life. You know, as they're running, they try to go indoors to take shelter, but they're locked out. So their only other option is to get onto a boat and try to sail away. But then on the water, just before they reach the docks to get to a boat, Titan X shows up out of the water. And we see Titan X's spikes turn from blue to red. I'm not sure what that means just yet. I don't know if Titan X has atomic breath like Godzilla does. But I don't know, it seems like some of the scarabs were going towards Titan X. Others were trying to attack Lee and Keiko. Well, they managed to make it into like a little shed. But just before they were even able to get comfortable, one of Titan X's tentacles just destroys the shed. We see Titan X roar, and that's pretty much where the episode ends. Oh man, you already know that they're saving a big CGI fight between Godzilla and Kong versus Titan X at the end of the season. You already know they're saving that for the final episode. I don't know, I'm starting to think that Titan X, maybe it won't cause another G-Day level catastrophe, because we never heard about it in the movies. Obviously, the story wasn't even written when the movies came out. All of this is 2 years before Ghidorah. Because Ghidorah happened in 2019. This is still in 2017. But, you know, at the moment, they're kind of dealing with Ghidorah, so... not really any reason to mention Titan X. But I'm very interested where the season's going, you know? I'm actually wondering, is Titan X a new original Titan to the show? Or is it something that was created before? Because majority of the Titans we know are already established in the past. You know, Godzilla, Kong, Mothra, Rodan, Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, Shimo. All of them are already well known. I never heard of Titan X before. So I wonder if Titan X is brand new to the show. Or maybe it's not, I don't know. Well, I guess the best option is Fairy. Oh, by the way, yesterday we had a pretty big snowstorm. Yesterday, it snowed the entire day. All the progress we had of it getting warmer and all the snow melting was undone in one afternoon. Because yesterday it snowed the entire day to the point not long after it started snowing, everything turned white. Everything turned white immediately. And because yesterday snowed the entire afternoon, and then near the night it was like a little bit rainy, the snow got really heavy because it was wet. So it was not fun shoveling yesterday. I had to shovel the snow before I went out last night. Oh, why didn't I use Steamroller, you idiot? There's a terrain out. Ah, why the hell not? Well, we have one more thing to talk about. This TED episode, you know, I say every episode is crazy, but this one actually is. I don't know, this was the most out there episode so far. So, this one, episode 4, by the way, season 1 has 7 episodes. That's an odd number. So this episode, episode 4, is a Halloween episode. Maybe the episode actually came out around Halloween, I'm not too sure. Ah, sweet, it's asleep, with its eyes open. Alright, so John and Ted, they're getting ready to do their Halloween tradition. Because John, he has like 20 cartons of eggs. How many eggs is that? Well, you know, there's a dozen for each. That's like at least 20 dozen eggs. So John and Ted, they have this tradition where they stand on the roof of their house and they start egging kids with bad costumes. Because they flash back to the year before where they started egging this kid in a pretty bad Hulk costume. You know, he wasn't only wearing a Hulk mask, but he was also wearing a shirt with the Hulk on it. And they were just saying, like, the Hulk doesn't wear a shirt that has the Hulk on it. So they egg poor kids with bad costumes. But before that, because they have time, it's not time for the trick-or-treaters to come just yet. Before that, they have some time. And what are they going to do to kill the time? Scary movie. No, not the franchise, like an actual horror film. But they see, like, hey, none of these movies look scary. What the hell, Blair? I thought you were going to rent some horror movies for us. And she did. She rented some... I actually don't know what film this is. She rented some Disney horror movie. But the two of them, they quickly brush it off because, you know, it's Disney. How scary is a Disney horror movie gonna be? So she dares them to watch it, and they watch it, they actually get scared. Well, while they're busy getting scared watching the Disney movie, Blair gets a call, and the call is pretty much saying, like, she doesn't have a designated driver anymore. Like, Blair wants to go to this Halloween party and drink, but she doesn't have a designated driver anymore, so she asks Ted to do so. And claiming, you know, Ted owes her. Why? Because she took the fall for the porn that Susan found, so Ted owes her. But John and Ted are like, no, we have plans tonight. Oops. So, Ted goes and gets ready for the egging. He goes and takes a shower to, like, fluff up his fur or whatnot. And while Ted is showering, Blair just jump scares him. She wears this blindfold, and she's just like, please drive me. I don't know, her plan to get Ted to drive her is by scaring him to the point he'll do it. Ted says no. He goes and, first of all, Ted was in the shower. He's just like, what are you doing, Blair? I'm naked. You're always naked, Ted. Yeah, but now I'm shower naked. So then Ted, you know, he, with a towel around his waist, goes over to the closet as if he was getting clothes. And Blair was in the closet waiting to jump scare him again. So as John and Ted are smoking pot in their room, I forget what they were talking about, but they were thinking, like, isn't it getting hot in here? Ted's thinking, oh my god, it's Blair. She turned up the temperature so that we will go and turn it down and she'll jump scare me. No, I'm gonna go open a window. And of course, Ted opens a window. Blair is just outside the window on the second story floor. And Ted finally caves. He's just like, alright, I'll drive you. Alright, so Ted agreed to drive Blair to her Halloween party, and in exchange, she promised him that they'll be home by 9 p.m. You know, they're both dressed up. Susan tries to guess what Blair is dressed up as. She's just like, you're dressed up as Batman. Close. I'm dressed as Catwoman. And you, Ted, I forget what she said he is, but he's just like, yes, exactly. Ted dressed up as one of those dudes in Star Wars with a cloak and a spear. I'm not too sure who those characters are. But, you know, John is super sad because his one and only friend isn't here and they had plans to throw eggs at kids. So Susan, she tries to cheer up her son by being like, John, I have a surprise for you. I forget what she said, some sort of candy bar. I hid one of those chocolate bars around the house. Well, where is it? Oh, I can't do this to you, it's like under the hamper. Just immediately folds and tells him where it is. Also, Maddie shows up. Maddie comes in and is just like, Susan, grab the alcohol or grab whatever. An emu bit me on the ass. How did that happen? Well, he was helping out a client fix his fence or whatnot, and then an emu just bit his ass. So as Susan helps her husband tend to the wound on his literal butt cheek, John, well, nothing to do. He goes to the fridge, grabs a Coke. He tries to look for cups, but then doesn't find any. So he goes into his parents' room, wanted to ask his mom, do we have any more cups? And he just goes in and sees his mother dabbing on, you know, with like gauze, dabbing on an open wound on his father's bare ass. His father's just like, take a good look, John, this is real life. At least he didn't walk in on them, you know, doing the dirty. Instead, he just walked into his mother cleaning the dirty on his father. Which I suppose is better, at least. So yeah, Ted drove Blair to the Halloween party. Blair obviously goes partying right away, but then Ted, it didn't take much to convince Ted to start, you know, drinking and smoking, despite the fact that he's a designated driver. Wait, hold on, let's take a pause real quick. Why would they trust Ted to drive? Because I even rewatched some clips from Ted 2. In Ted 2, he said he doesn't even have a license. Which means, obviously, like 20 years earlier, he sure as hell doesn't have a license. So why is Ted entrusted to drive? And even if he did have a license, the dude at the, you know, the movie rental store is just, you know, points out for us and the audience, isn't Ted 8 years old? You know, he came to life in 1985, and it's now 1993. Isn't Ted only 8 years old? But whatever. Ted, he drinks, he gets high. Over at the house, you know, John is alone, sad. Susan realizes, and she kind of pulls an Amy Duncan here, where she's just like, oh, you know this one woman from my church, Carol? She has a son that's around your age. Would you like me to call her to tell her son to come over and be with you? What? Mom, no, why would you do that? I think I'm gonna give Carol a call. Like, she actually just does it. Even John is just like, what just happened? Yeah, she really did just pull an Amy Duncan there. Remember when Amy was just prying into Gabe when he had a crush on a girl named Heather, and then wrong girl? And of course, is this a base take? Women not taking accountability. She just like shifts the blame onto Gabe. Well, I really wish you didn't get me involved, when she got herself involved. Anyways, so let's see. At the party, Ted realizes, oh shit, it's 8:30. I promised John I'd be back home by 9. So he goes to Blair and tells her, but Blair is able to realize, shit, Ted, are you drunk? Yes. How are we supposed to get home now? Anyway, so they figure it out. As they're trying to get into the car to leave, Blair's professor from college shows up, inviting her over to, like, read something of his. The reason he does this is because Blair's professor is, like, a very successful author, and he's looking for an assistant for his new book, which I guess would be huge for Blair. So, of course, you know, they agree, even though Ted is running late. But Ted, he warns Blair. It's like, this dude, this professor of yours just wants to sleep with you. And the professor, whatever his actual name is, I started to recognize him. I'm just like, where have I seen this guy before? So I looked it up. The actor, Josh Stamberg, that's right, that's where I know him from. He was in WandaVision. He was pretty much the main antagonist in WandaVision. Whatever his name was. Anyway, so they go over to the professor's home. They talk a bit. You know, Ted, he doesn't trust this guy at all. So he goes and, like, refreshes their drink. So Blair and Ted, they talk. Ted just warns her, like, come on, this guy's super into you. He's never seen you dressed like this before, dressed like Catwoman. Oh, by the way, remember how I said these jokes always come back? Even the professor was like, I love your Batman costume. So, you know, it's like a professor, a hot young student dressed in leather. He's trying to get you drunk. It's like he's trying to sleep with you, Blair. So Ted insists on them leaving, and they do. But Blair, she's a little bit mad, considering that this might be her chance. Not to sleep with her professor, but this is like a good, like, college opportunity or whatever. So they're driving back. Ted, for some reason, is driving. Despite being 8 years old, has no license, and, you know, under the influence. Ted runs a red light, and then as they're arguing, Ted runs another red light and crashes Blair's car. So, good for him. Good job. Now they have no car. How are they supposed to get home? Well, they're gonna try to call home, see if, like, Maddie will pick them up. They go to a payphone. It's like, when Maddie picks up the phone, will you take this transfer call? No, hangs up. Wow. Maybe I should have chosen Charge a Bug. Whatever. So they try to go to a McDonald's to use their phone, but then Blair comes out of the McDonald's saying, they yelled at me, telling me, get out of the kitchen, you drunk. And then she just hands Ted, here, I stole an apple pie for you. But then there's this joke like, be careful, Blair. Every time you take a bite out of a McDonald's apple pie, it's always too hot. They both bite. Ah, it's too hot! Okay, it's probably cooled down by now. Ah, it still burns! I kid you not when I tell you this. Ted throws the apple pie into, like, some newspaper in the gutter, and it catches on fire. You're telling me that's how hot the apple pie was? It makes contact with paper, it goes on fire? Anyways, after that that iCarly moment, they hatch a new plan. Let's go back to the professor's place and use their phone. But Ted is against it, but at this point, what plan do they really have? Back at the house, so John comes downstairs, and he notices that his mom answered the door and let someone in. You know, it's a friend that she called for him. First of all, John is 16, and I'm looking at this guy like he is not 16. Because even John was able to pick up on this. He's just like, how old are you? Oh, I'm 38, and I still live with my mom. It's a choice, though. And this dude, I think his name was Will, he just spouts the most unhinged shit ever. Like, this dude, he not gonna lie, he kind of gave me Wade Whipple vibes, but more insane. So, they talk, and then he's just like, you want to watch porn together? It's like, you have porn? Yeah, he pulls out a literal file, a paper file, and literally on lined paper he has drawings that he made himself. The camera just closes in on John flipping the pages. It's all sex positions that this dude drew up on his own. But none of them have hands. So John questions and he's just like, oh, I can't draw hands. Geez, very, what? Rob Liefeld can't draw feet? I don't know, man, but then another scene where the two of them are just on the couch. I don't even remember if they were watching a movie or not. They might have just been sitting on the couch talking, or rather sitting in silence because it's so awkward. So he just casually brings up, you want me to, wait, you want to watch, what was it, firefighter deaths? It's like, I actually have footage. I have the footage with me. Something about real death that just, oh, turns me on, don't you think? No. Come on, man, I'm messing with ya. But seriously, I do have it. Do you want to watch it? It's like, the hell is wrong with this guy? And then, this dude almost comes off as a creep. Because, you know, remember, he's 38 and John is 16. He's just like, oh, it's getting kind of warm in here. Makes you almost want to take your shirt off, right? Look at that, your shirt's already halfway off. I'm kidding, man, I'm kidding. Or am I? I'm kidding you again. I don't know, I feel like that might have been a bit much for Seth MacFarlane to write, but whatever, what do I know? Actually, no. Do not go into Bisharp, that's a horrible idea. And then, you know, he just talks about drugs, talks about weed, talks about coke, talks about crack. And then pulls out a container of actual crack. What the hell? Anyways, John has had it with this guy. He goes to his mom and tries to beg her to, like, please just tell him to leave. Well, Johnny, he's your friend. If you wanted to leave so badly, then you have to tell him that. John's just like, he's not my friend. You called him over. But fine, I'll tell him to leave. Alright, before we continue that, let's go back to Blair and Ted. They go back to the professor's place, where, you know, like, welcome! Oh, please, come on in. Of course you may use my phone. They try to call back home, but no one picks up. So now they kind of don't have a way back home. So, the professor offers Blair to read a rough draft of his next book. Blair would be honored to. You know, the professor warning, like, ignore all the spelling errors, you know, that's just a rough draft. Ted, why don't you and I give her some privacy as she reads, you know? So he takes Ted into his pool table room. He offers to freshen up Ted's drink, so he, you know, takes his cup and walks away. And then we get this infamous scene, this meme scene, where Ted, you know, I'm sure you've seen it, where Ted climbs up onto the pool table, grabs a pool cue, tries to shoot a ball, and it launches, breaking a framed photo on the wall. He's just like, whoops. And I kid you not, oh, I feel so bad for the actor at this point. I kid you not when I tell you this next scene. The professor comes back into the room dressed in a furry bear costume. And he confesses his love, not for Blair, but for Ted. Oh my god, what is wrong with Seth MacFarlane? Oh my goodness. He's just like, I've been waiting for someone like you my whole life, Ted. Your beautiful fur, your straightforward attitude. I want to make love to you, Ted. Oh my god, what? And you have to keep in mind, in reality, the actor in a bear costume is saying this to nothing, you know? Because Ted is added in, is CGI and added in afterwards. So, like, wow. But Ted, he's very uncomfortable, he doesn't feel the same way, and Blair couldn't have come in at a better moment, because he's just like, hey professor, can I use your bathroom? Sees the professor in a bear suit. So they try to leave, but then, you know, the professor just stops them for a second, like, hey, could you guys maybe keep this quiet? I kind of have a reputation to uphold as someone who doesn't dress in bear costumes and wants to sleep with teddy bears. Ted actually does Blair a solid and just goes like, we'll keep this a secret on one condition. You make Blair your book assistant or whatever. So, you know, good on Ted. Oh, and also, we're gonna need to take your bike. And hilariously enough, Blair is riding on the bike with Ted in the basket as if this was E.T. I think they even played the E.T. music. So, John, back at home, is trying to find where Will is. He hears Will in a room, so he knocks. He goes in, and then Will is just in the bathtub. In the bathtub on the phone with his dad. He's just like, I really wish you were here with me, Dad. I'm in the bathtub right now. Oh, no, wait. He didn't say dad yet. He's just like, I really wish you were here with me. Like, in this bathtub. We could be bathing together. Alright, bye, Dad. I love you, too. And, you know, this is almost like the breaking point for John. He's just like, what the hell, man? Who just goes into a bathtub in someone else's house? I do. See, you and everyone else wait to be allowed to do things. Me, no, I take opportunities when I get the chance. And then he stands up. He stands up from the bathtub. Good on John for making eye contact. At least he immediately wraps himself with a towel. And then, you know, he kind of gives sage advice to John. He's just like, John, you need to live. You ever see an opportunity in life, you grab it. You take it. And then John's like, why is the water in the bathtub black? So then Will just lets himself out. He leaves, finally, thank God. And then Maddie, you know, after Will leaves, Maddie opens the door, and it's the dude who runs the ostrich farm, here to apologize to Maddie by giving him a basket of, like, 24 ostrich eggs. And then Maddie, for some reason, is like, what the hell am I supposed to do with 24 eggs? 24 ostrich eggs. Each egg is, like, 6 times a chicken egg. But then John, he hears the sage advice, like, If you ever want something in life, you take it. You grab the opportunity. Hey, Dad, wait. Don't, don't reject that gift of eggs just yet. Because then John, he takes those eggs to the roof and starts chucking them at kids. And then he notices, he throws the eggs at a couple of kids, and then he notices, hey, E.T., suck it! Not knowing he just threw an egg at Blair and Ted. Ted realizing, oh my god, is this what we've been doing to people all these years? Johnny, we were wrong! We were wrong! Anyway, so Blair, getting ready for bed, hears a sound in her closet again. I don't know why she didn't grab the pepper spray this time, but whatever. She opens the closet and Ted jump scares her back with a blindfold on his eyes. Pretty much, he wanted to tell Blair, hey, I thought you were lame, but you're pretty cool. I had fun with you. Blair just replies, you know what, Ted? I had fun with you too. So Ted actually has a gift for her. Ted hands her a McDonald's apple pie, and Ted claims, yeah, I put that in the freezer like 2 months ago. It should have been cooled off by now. And then we cut to outside Blair's room. A huge fire breaks out. How? Talk about some iCarly moments. You would think that's the end of the episode, but no, there's one last scene. Someone's knocking at the door. John answers. And then the person at the door just goes, hey, my mom is Carol. I just got done from a party and I was told to come here and hang out with some kid named John. John's just like, wait, you're Carol's son? And the episode ends. What? This whole time, the dude at the house wasn't even who Susan called. He was just some random 38-year-old who just crashed at the house. I don't know what insanity made Seth MacFarlane write this kind of episode, but like, wow. This is some high-quality insanity right here. This is probably overkill, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Nice. I don't know, what was a bigger plot twist? Or what was a bigger ending WTF moment? Ian McKellen narrating, or the fact that, you know, the real son of Carol showed up, and not whoever the hell Will was. I'll do one more run, then call it for tonight. How am I doing on Die Night Ore? Alright, I still got room. I see no water types, I see no ground types. Okay, I see a Nido King, that's good. And I think on the... no, that's a Quillfish. But that's still fine. I think that's a Needle Queen all the way there. Damn, I should have gone right. That way I would have 2 chances. Well, I got nothing else to do tonight. I already did the dishes. Damn, Outrage did that much? Oh, by the way, there are no laws. By the way, I did look up the lore for Pokemon Pokopia, and it is pretty dark. It's pretty depressing and sad, actually. Anyways, the lore is pretty much the planet became uninhabitable, so all humans went to space, and Pokemon were left behind. That's pretty much it. I don't know, like, doesn't that sound very Wall-E? No? All the humans went to space because the planet just became uninhabitable anymore? Uninhabitable, I should say. You know, on one hand, I'm kind of thinking, how could you not bring the Pokemon out to space with you? But on the other hand, I'm thinking, I guess you're taking them out of their natural habitats, probably not gonna survive in goddamn space. And I'm thinking too, like, Pokopia is obviously a spin-off, but it takes place in a post-apocalyptic future. Like, it's literally the Kanto region in ruins. I'm wondering, would Pokopia be canon to the main series games, just in a very, very, very distant future? Kind of like, you know, Scarlet and Violet saying the Paradox Pokemons are a million years in the past or future. It's like so far in the future that, you know, we won't reach that point in our lifetimes. But you know, it's still canon in the future. But damn, that's kind of crazy to think. The Pokemon world became so unlivable that humans had to leave the planet. I mean, like, the hell did they make? Did they make the space colony arc? Like, how did they leave the planet? I'm not gonna lie, I don't have faith in humanity in real life to do this. Like, in real life. If we experience a 2012, I don't think humanity would be able to come together to get us all into space and leave the planet. I think if the planet was, you know, literally folding in on itself, I think we would all be screwed. Should I Dynamax? Should I not? Should I Dynamax? Should I not? I guess I may as well. And maybe call this naive thought. I would like to think that if it's a literal planetary ending, humanity extinction level event, what did you think humanity would come together and just work together to make something instead of like one country doesn't have enough funding to make this work? We need the help of another country. It's like, what did you think everyone would just come together? At that point, forget money. Just give everything you have to work together to survive. You would think, ideally you would think that's how the world works, but nope. Nope, even as the planet is on fire, everything still revolves around money. Like, you would think, if America was building a giant space station, but oh no, we don't have the parts, we need China to send over these parts, wouldn't you think China would immediately fly it over for free if it is a planetary destruction event? Like, at that point, money means nothing. Just get the parts over there so that humanity would survive. What did you think that would happen? Probably not. Countries would probably be like, you don't have enough to afford it. I don't know, ideally, this kind of stuff doesn't happen in at least my lifetime. I'll be long dead before any of this becomes a concern. Wouldn't that be nice? Damn it! That one NPC held on to Trevenant this whole time. So as of me playing this, I am about to start page 3 of the Shiny Diancie Masterworks research in Pokemon Go, where it's spin a Pokestop on 21 different days. So it's time gated for 3 weeks. Oh, that's nice. I'm trying to complete this as fast as I can, so that maybe I can catch it on a special day coming up. But we'll see. We're only on page 3 of 10. And if they time gate it as much as they did the Shiny Keldeo one, then like, oh, never mind then. All those ideas are just gonna go out the window. You know, I kind of find interesting, you know, shinies are meant to be a rare, different colored version of the normal version, right? But in Pokemon Go, you only get one of each mythical. You get one regular and one shiny. Wait, is that the case, or did we ever get two? Hold on. Did we get a second? No, we didn't. We never got a second Celebi, we never got a second Jirachi. We only ever got one, so it's like... Is the other one really a rarer version of the original? Because we only get one of each. Even if you already caught the regular one and they have an event for another one to come out, you cannot catch it again. You're only allowed one. Oh no, they did give us two Celebes. I'm just looking now in my Pokemon Go. There are two Celebes that are normal. One shiny. You know, I'm talking the main mythicals, because there's a handful of mythicals that you can get multiple of in Pokemon Go. Deoxys, Darkrai, Genesect, Hoopa, Meltan and Melmetal, of course. And there was also two Zarudes. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. You know, speaking of Zarude, this past event for the 30th anniversary in Pokemon Go, where legendaries are spawning off of the incense, I realized that this is the first and currently only instance in Pokemon history where you would be able to catch an ordinary Enamorus in a regular Pokeball. Not a Hisui Ball, in a regular Pokeball. As much as I would like for that to be the case, I didn't even bother because, first of all, the chance of finding an Enamorus is very slim, and the chance of actually catching it in a regular Pokeball is like next to none. So I didn't even bother. And then I realized my Living Dex only has two things missing that are not in a regular Pokeball, being Enamorus and Zarude. Both actually can be got in a regular Pokeball in Pokemon Go. Well, only for a limited time. I clearly didn't get the Enamorus. Okay, well, I'm gonna call it here for tonight. Oh, I also did pull a Rainbow card in TCG Pocket today. Let's see. I pulled the Rainbow Belly Bolt today. Okay, bye.